talked to you near the end of spring. I think you guys had a couple of practices left, I guess, with a little bit of remove. Overall thoughts of how it went?
Yeah, I thought we got exactly what we wanted to get out of spring. We really wanted to challenge this young team, and not young maybe per se in terms of, experience on the field, but maybe some new roles. And I thought we really got that out of them. I know I said in our last press conference, we've got a long ways to go, and I still think that. But I thought, we didn't back down from spring practice. I thought it was really physical. We got meaningful reps, and so I think we got at least a great vision of where are we, and then how do we fill those gaps in here the next, 6 to 8 weeks that we get them before fall camp.
We often talk about how important summer is. Does this one become even more heightened given slight change in routine with the week 0 game and all that to mess around a little bit?
Yeah, I think it's challenged me, as the head coach, which is almost a great thing. You're a week shorter. That obviously playing week 0. I think just how our entire schedule sits, it's just such a unique challenge this year. And so when you look at the first 4 games and just the unique challenge of all 4 of those opponents, I just think it really puts a high demand of how important every day is in June, July, and obviously August. So we're going to have to be great teachers and great coaches through the summer, and we're going to have to be able to maximize our value through that experience. So it's a really good challenge. It's been good for me to learn and grow, to be honest with you. Been able to get out to some NFL teams and just try to, how do you handle going over to Europe? How do you handle some of these experiences? And so I think you just continue to grow and learn, and kind of like last year, with the NFL clock system, I think there's just ways to research how to be your best and how to make the best of this.
It's really interesting because that's an aspect I didn't think about, the idea that you do have examples where the NFL gets a disruption of, you've got a London game, you've got this game. What really going to glean from that, and being a guy who is such a creature of habit, how much does it help to hear how those people deal with it?
I think you see success and failure, not only per se the game, and it's the travel back, it's playing 3 games, Coach Sirianni in the Eagles last year, they played in, Spain and then had to come back and play, and then they had their 2-2 and then had a bye week and then obviously went on a great run. So, I think he's had some great experience of that, just some coaches that I really trust. And to be able to figure out, I think as much as anything, the travel out, but it's the travel back, and then how do you handle your football team after that? What have they done well and what haven't they done well and what would they have done different? So you try to take all that and try to put the best plan you can together.
Stick with the NFL theme. How do you process $265 million or whatever it was Brock signed for?
Yeah, and we talked about it. I think the biggest thing for him, the money's great, but I think the reality of, his ability to stay and lead that football team and what he's accomplished, I think that's the real story in it. And Brock's as humble as they get. But the credibility of where he is right now in the National Football League, what kind of leader he's been for that team, the success that he's been able to have, and now them really kind of giving him the keys to lead this storied franchise forward, and a really good window for them to have a chance to continue to compete at the highest level. So, I'm really proud of him. I think that's exciting. The money piece is great, but I think the reality of the story is even greater, and that's what's awesome.
There's been so many questions or doubt about him probably from where he was drafted. The fact that they're willing to give him that kind of money, does that kind of show that they know he's the real deal?
Well, you're talking one of the best organizations in football, and so the great thing about Brock is I think he's been doubted since high school, right? And, he's been a guy that every time he's been given the chance to lead, he's taken that opportunity, that moment, and he's capitalized on that. That's what's really special about him. And, it's going to be fun to watch those guys. I mean, you talk about the nucleus of that team still really intact. And, they've proven to do a great job drafting players. So it's going to be fun to watch that group continue to grow forward.
The guys that were nicked up coming out of spring, that were kind of day-to-day, week-to-week, how are they progressing, and what do you expect from them once in June you get back going again?
Yeah, I think we're obviously a team that's dealt with a lot of health issues since last football season. I think we're really trending on being almost 100% as we kind of get back in June. So think we feel really good about the health of our football team going into the summer, and then obviously as we work ourselves closer to fall camp. But yeah, we're excited about that opportunity to have a full team back, and it certainly was great to get a lot of those guys that we didn't have last football season back on the practice field, and thought some of those guys probably were the highlights of the spring ball for us. So it was awesome to see.
What is it of value of an event like this, where you get to connect with your fan base in a one-on-one type of setting like this?
Yeah, I still would say I think that's one of the neat things about this place is, the fan engagement. I think the loyalty that our fan base has given all of our programs, and the opportunity to just kind of be able to be out and sense of gratitude and thankfulness of what they've done for our programs, and at least for me, you got to see that gratitude when it wasn't really good, and obviously kind of stayed the course through some good seasons and some not so good seasons, but you're really grateful because you feel like that fan base has made it really special to play in Jack Trice Stadium on Saturdays for sure.
Different line of questioning, but the last time we spoke with you, you passionately spoke about roster limits and those cuts kind of going on. It seems like those are maybe going to be grandfathered in.
Yeah.
Curious what your thoughts are on that potential changing dynamic.
Well, at least we kind of know some rules, right? I mean, it's still crazy to me that we're in college football and we open up here in less than 3 months, and we still don't have definitiveness on what are the rules of engagement. But I certainly think we're trending in the right direction. I told Travis, he asked a great question, and me and him flipped the tide hopefully on at least kind of getting those young people to do the right thing. So I think if there is a grace period where you can keep the young people that have invested on your roster and your team, and then give those people an opportunity at some point to get down to a roster limit, that makes way more sense than maybe what was currently being talked about. So I think it was a huge win, a celebration, I think, in our locker room when that news came out. That's kind of where we're at. And, we feel like we've got a really strong roster now with the opportunity to head into the summer and be ready for the fall.
Do you welcome players back that you maybe had conversations with of, hey, we don't know if we're going to be able to keep you? Are those guys coming back, or what is the situation with those types of players?
Yeah, I think, I think really every kid since January that we've had those conversations with, have either left for maybe a better opportunity. We had a couple of really good players, great humans, get scholarship opportunities, which is some great wins. Those were monumental celebrations in our office for those young people. But the reality is the majority of our kids have said, Coach, we're going to stay and we're going to try to fight to be on the roster. And so, I think we were really fortunate. We didn't really, we lost some great kids that got great opportunities, but the reality is the majority of our roster stayed intact, and that was huge for us.
Assuming that grandfathered in is going to stay, what number would you anticipate being at July 25th?
Yeah, that's a great question. I want to say right now, Travis, we're almost at like 127, 128. So pretty much where we've been on normal years, So I feel really confident that, at least at some point we'll have to turn ourselves down there. But I think to start this fall, we will have not hurt ourselves.